Here is something most gardeners never think about. A chicken breast has roughly 26 grams of protein per 100 grams. That is the gold standard, the benchmark that most people compare everything else against. And yet, there are plants you can grow right in your own backyard, in a raised bed, in a container on your patio, that match that number, and in some cases beat it by a wide margin. Not supplements, not powders, actual plants. Welcome to Evergreen Garden. I am Timothy, and today we are going through 12 plants that contain remarkable levels of protein and that you can grow at home. The American Heart Association released updated dietary guidance just this year, urging Americans to shift from meat to plant-based protein sources. So this is not fringe wellness advice. This is mainstream medicine catching up to what gardeners have known for centuries. If this is your first time here, please subscribe. We publish practical garden content every week, and there is a lot more coming. And stay with me all the way through, because plant number 7 is something most American gardeners have never thought about growing, and I promise it is going to surprise you. Let us get started. We are going to cover everything from familiar garden staples you may have grown for years without thinking about their protein content, to a couple of plants that are going to genuinely surprise you. For each one, we will cover what it provides, how to grow it, the best zones and conditions, and any safety notes you need to know. Let us dive in. Number 1 is edamame, which is simply the Japanese name for fresh soybeans harvested before they fully mature and dry. If you have eaten edamame at a sushi restaurant, you know what these are, but what you may not know is how easy they are to grow and how significant their protein content is. Edamame is suited to USDA zones 3 through 11. It is a warm weather annual, which means you plant it in spring after the last frost and harvest it the same season. Plant seeds about an inch deep and 3 inches apart in full sun. The plants grow quickly, usually reaching 2 to 3 feet tall, and they produce pods throughout the summer. Harvest when the pods are bright green and plump, which is typically around 70 to 90 days from planting, depending on the variety. A half cup of cooked edamame delivers about 11 grams of protein. A cup gives you closer to 18 grams. Edamame is also a complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids, which is rare in the plant world. This is the same nutritional profile as meat, just in a plant. Edamame is safe for children and pets. There are no significant toxicity concerns. It is one of the most family-friendly plants on this list. 3 popular edamame varieties for home gardens are Envy, Beer Friend, and Midori Giant. All 3 are reliable producers, but Envy tends to produce larger, plumper beans with excellent flavor and a shorter growing window, which makes it a good first choice if you have never grown edamame before. Number 2 is the lentil. Lentils are one of the oldest cultivated crops on Earth, grown in the Middle East and Mediterranean for at least 10,000 years, and they are among the easiest legumes to grow in a home garden. 1 cup of cooked lentils delivers about 18 grams of protein, comparable to a small chicken breast. Lentils grow in USDA zones 3 through 11 as warm season annuals. They prefer cool to moderate temperatures for germination and do well in most of the continental United States. Plant seeds about half an inch deep in a sunny spot with well-draining soil. The plants stay compact, usually under 2 feet, which makes them good for raised beds and even large containers. Harvest the pods when they turn yellow-brown and begin to dry. Then thresh the seeds out of the pods. One of the things that makes lentils so valuable is that they grow in relatively poor soil and require very little water compared to most vegetables. They are also nitrogen-fixing, which means they improve the soil for whatever you plant next. Green, brown, red, and black lentil varieties all grow well in home gardens. For most home gardeners, brown lentils are the most forgiving. They tolerate a wider range of growing conditions and store well once dried. Red lentils, which are actually orange when raw and turn golden when cooked, are a mild, fast-cooking variety that many people prefer for soups and creamy dishes. Lentils are safe for children and pets. No significant safety concerns. Number 3 is the chickpea, also called the garbanzo bean. If you use hummus, you already know chickpeas. What you may not know is that 100 grams of dried chickpeas contains about 19 grams of protein, comparable to many cuts of chicken, and you can grow them at home with relatively modest effort. Chickpeas are hardy in USDA zones 3 through 11 as annual crops. They prefer a long, warm growing season of at least 90 to 100 days, which makes them ideal for most of the United States. Plant seeds directly in the garden after the last frost in full sun. The plants grow to about 18 inches tall and produce 1 to 2 chickpeas per pod. Harvest when the pods turn brown and papery. You can eat them fresh as green chickpeas or dry them for storage. Chickpeas are also nitrogen-fixing legumes, so they give back to the soil as they grow. They are drought-tolerant once established and do not require heavy fertilization. Kabuli chickpeas are the larger, rounder type you find in most grocery stores. Desi chickpeas are smaller and darker and tend to be more productive in home gardens. Chickpeas are safe for children and pets. Number 4 is the fava bean. This one surprises most American gardeners because fava beans have largely disappeared from North American home gardens, even though they were a staple crop in Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East for thousands of years. 100 grams of dried fava beans contains about 26 grams of protein, which matches chicken breast gram for gram. Fava beans are one of the rare legumes that thrive in cool weather. They are hardy in USDA zones 3 through 10, and actually prefer planting in early spring or even fall in mild climates. They will tolerate a light frost, which makes them valuable for gardeners who want to extend the season. The plants grow tall, sometimes 4 to 5 feet, and produce large, sturdy pods. Harvest when the pods are bright green and the beans inside feel plump, or leave them to dry completely for dried beans. Fava beans have a buttery, slightly earthy flavor that most people describe as a cross between a lima bean and a pea. They are excellent fresh, roasted, or pureed into dips and spreads. They are also nitrogen fixers and are sometimes grown specifically as a winter cover crop to enrich soil. One important safety note: a small percentage of people with a genetic condition called G6PD deficiency, which is more common in people of Mediterranean and African descent, can have a serious reaction to fava beans. This condition is called favism. If you or a family member has G6PD deficiency, avoid fava beans. For most people, they are completely safe and highly nutritious. Number 5 is amaranth. Amaranth is one of the most ancient food crops in the Americas, grown by the Aztec civilization for centuries as a primary protein source before Spanish colonizers nearly eradicated it from the continent. Today, it is making a quiet comeback, and once you grow it, you will understand why. Amaranth is an extremely vigorous annual that grows in USDA zones 2 through 11. It tolerates heat, drought, poor soil, and conditions that would defeat most garden plants. Seeds can be direct sown in spring after the last frost. The plants grow quickly, often reaching 4 to 8 feet tall, and produce large, spectacular seed heads that can be red, gold, or purple depending on the variety. A single plant can yield a significant amount of seed. Amaranth grain contains about 14 grams of protein per 100 grams, and unlike most plant proteins, it is a complete protein containing all essential amino acids. It also contains lysine, an amino acid that is notably scarce in most grains. The seeds can be cooked like rice or quinoa, popped like popcorn, or ground into flour. The leaves are also edible and nutritious, similar in flavor to spinach. Look for grain amaranth varieties like Golden Giant or Plainsman for the highest seed yields. Amaranth is safe for most people and pets. No significant toxicity concerns. Number 6 is quinoa. Quinoa has become well known in recent years, but most American gardeners do not realize they can grow it at home, particularly in regions with cool summers. 100 grams of cooked quinoa contains about 14 grams of protein, and like amaranth, it is a complete protein. Quinoa is best suited to USDA zones 4 through 10, but it performs most reliably in regions with moderate summers. It prefers temperatures between 50 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit during the growing season. In very hot, humid climates, it tends to struggle. Plant seeds in early spring in a sunny spot with good drainage. The plants grow 3 to 6 feet tall and produce dense seed heads similar in appearance to amaranth. Harvest when the seed heads begin to dry and the seeds brush off easily with your hand. Rinse the seeds thoroughly before eating or cooking to remove the naturally occurring saponin coating, which has a bitter, soapy taste. This rinsing step is important and easy to skip by mistake. Colorado-developed varieties like Temuco and Puno tend to handle North American growing conditions better than varieties bred in the high-altitude Andes. If you are in the Pacific Northwest, the Mountain West, or any region with cool summers, quinoa can be one of the most rewarding grain crops you will grow. Quinoa is safe for children and pets. No significant safety concerns. Number 7 is hemp. And this is the one most people do not see coming. Here is what you need to know. The 2018 Farm Bill legalized the growing of industrial hemp across all 50 United States for the first time in generations. Hemp grown for food and fiber, specifically varieties with very low THC content, is now legal to grow in every state, though some states require a license or registration, so it is worth checking your State Department of Agriculture website before you plant. Hemp seeds are one of the most nutritionally dense plant foods on Earth. 100 grams of hemp seeds contains about 31 grams of complete protein, which exceeds chicken breast gram for gram. Hemp is also one of the only plant foods that contains a nearly ideal ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids, which is why nutritionists have paid so much attention to it in recent years. Hemp is suited to USDA zones 5 through 10 and grows as a vigorous warm season annual. The plants can reach 10 to 15 feet tall under ideal conditions, though many varieties grown specifically for seed stay shorter. Direct sow seeds in full sun after the last frost. Hemp is drought tolerant once established and generally has very few pest problems. It grows quickly and is ready to harvest in about 80 to 90 days. For home gardeners, the key is sourcing seeds specifically labeled for food production or seed harvest, not fiber hemp. Look for varieties like Finola, Anka, or Joey, which have been bred specifically for high seed yield. You can find these from reputable seed suppliers. Before you plant, check your specific state's hemp registration requirements. Most states have a simple, low-cost process. A few states had restrictions in place when this video was produced, so verify the current rules for your location through your State Department of Agriculture website before purchasing seed or breaking ground. Hemp seeds are safe for children and are not psychoactive in any form when the seeds are consumed as food. The plants themselves are generally not attractive to pets, but the seeds, if consumed in very large quantities by dogs, can cause mild digestive upset. Normal garden exposure is not a concern. Number 8 is the mung bean. Mung beans are one of the most widely grown legumes in Asia, and they deserve far more attention in American home gardens. 100 grams of dried mung beans contains about 24 grams of protein, and they are one of the easiest legumes to grow in hot weather. Mung beans thrive in USDA zones 5 through 11. They love heat and are planted after the last frost in a warm, sunny location. The seeds germinate quickly, and the plants grow to about 2 feet tall. Harvest pods when they turn black and begin to dry, usually about 60 to 90 days from planting. One of the best things about mung beans for home gardeners is their versatility. You can harvest the pods at the fresh bean stage, dry them for storage, or use the seeds to grow sprouts indoors year-round. Mung bean sprouts, which you have probably seen in stir-fries and sandwiches, are one of the fastest and easiest foods to produce at home, with nothing more than a jar, some water, and a bit of patience. Even in winter, you can have fresh mung bean sprouts on your counter in 3 to 5 days. Mung beans are safe for children and pets. Number 9 is pumpkin, specifically grown for its seeds. Most gardeners grow pumpkins for the fruit itself, for pies, for decoration, for autumn harvests. But the seeds inside that pumpkin are one of the most protein-rich foods you can pull from a backyard garden. 100 grams of dried, shelled pumpkin seeds, which are called pepitas, contains about 30 grams of protein. Pumpkins are grown in USDA zones 3 through 9 as warm season annuals. They need space, full sun, and a long growing season of 75 to 100 days, depending on the variety. Plant seeds or transplants after the last frost and give the vines room to sprawl. Water consistently and fertilize with a balanced garden fertilizer when the vines begin to run. For the highest seed yield, look for hull-less pumpkin varieties like Styrian or Lady Godiva. These varieties produce seeds without the hard outer shell, which makes them much easier to eat and process. When you harvest your pumpkin, scoop out the seeds, rinse them, and spread them on a baking sheet to dry. Roast them lightly or eat them raw. They are excellent as a snack, as a salad topping, or blended into sauces and dressings. Pumpkin seeds are safe for children and most pets. Dogs can eat pumpkin seeds in moderation. Number 10 is the black-eyed pea, also called the cowpea. Black-eyed peas have a long history in the American South, where they were grown for centuries as a reliable, heat-tolerant protein source. 100 grams of dried black-eyed peas contains about 24 grams of protein. They are also one of the most drought-tolerant legumes available to home gardeners. Black-eyed peas thrive in USDA zones 5 through 11 and actually perform better in hot weather than most legumes. They are planted after the last frost in full sun and can produce a harvest in as little as 60 days for fresh peas or 90 days for fully dried beans. The plants are low and bushy and do not require staking. If you live in the Deep South, the Gulf Coast states, or the Southwest, black-eyed peas are one of the best protein crops you can grow because they produce reliably in conditions that defeat most other legumes. They also fix nitrogen in the soil, improving your garden beds for the following season. You can eat black-eyed peas fresh when the pods are still green and the peas are plump, or dry the pods completely and shell them for dried beans that store for years. Black-eyed peas are safe for children and pets. Number 11 is Moringa. Moringa oleifera, commonly called the drumstick tree or the miracle tree, is one of the most nutritionally significant plants that most American gardeners have never grown. In tropical regions of Asia and Africa, Moringa has been used as a food source, a water purifier, and a medicinal plant for generations. Here is what makes Moringa remarkable in the context of protein. When the leaves are dried and powdered, they contain approximately 27 grams of protein per 100 grams of dried weight. That matches chicken breast gram for gram. And unlike most protein-rich plants that require extensive cooking or processing, Moringa leaves can be eaten fresh in salads, stirred into soups, or dried and used as a powder to add to food. Moringa grows as a fast-growing tree in USDA zones 9 through 11. In colder zones, it can be grown in a large container and brought indoors for winter. The tree grows extremely quickly in warm weather, sometimes 3 to 4 feet per month under ideal conditions, and can be cut back hard to keep it manageable as a container plant or a large shrub rather than a full tree. Give Moringa full sun and well-draining soil. It is highly drought-tolerant once established. Container-grown Moringa should be in the largest pot you can manage, at least 20 gallons, with a fast-draining potting mix. Moringa does not tolerate wet roots and will drop leaves quickly if left in soggy soil. Let the top 2 inches dry out between waterings. Harvest young leaves and pods regularly to encourage continued production. The fresh pods, called drumsticks, are eaten as a vegetable in South Asian cooking. The leaves are the most protein-dense part of the plant. One thing to note, Moringa supplements and powders have been aggressively marketed in recent years. Growing your own Moringa gives you the same nutritional benefit with fresh leaves, no processing, and no supplement cost. Use the leaf framing that traditionally people have relied on this tree for protein and nutrition, and always check with your doctor before making significant dietary changes. Moringa is generally considered safe for adults. However, Moringa root, bark, and extracts in concentrated form have properties that can be concerning during pregnancy. Stick to fresh leaves and young pods for culinary use. Moringa leaves are not listed as toxic to pets, but as with any new plant, introduce it gradually if your pets are around it. Number 12 is spirulina. We are closing with the plant that carries the most protein of anything on this list by a significant margin. Spirulina is a blue-green microalgae, technically a type of cyanobacteria, and it has been consumed as a food source for centuries, first by the Aztec civilization in Mexico and later rediscovered in Central Africa. Dried spirulina contains between 57 and 70 grams of protein per 100 grams of dried weight. That is more than double what chicken provides. Spirulina can be grown at home, but it requires a different approach than everything else on this list. It is an aquatic organism that grows in warm, alkaline water. Home spirulina cultivation typically involves a small indoor tank or container filled with a specific water solution, warm temperatures between 85 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and good lighting. Small-scale spirulina growing kits are available for home growers, and the process is manageable for someone willing to learn it. The most critical factor is maintaining the right water pH. typically between 8.5 and 11, and keeping the temperature consistently warm. Natural sunlight or a grow light positioned close to the surface will support rapid growth. Most home growers harvest small batches every few days by filtering the algae through a fine mesh cloth and then drying or using it fresh. Spirulina does not have a USDA hardiness zone in the traditional sense because it grows in water rather than soil. It can be produced indoors year-round anywhere in the country, which actually makes it one of the most versatile protein sources on this list in terms of geography. As with any food from an aquatic source, purchase starter cultures from reputable suppliers and follow proper cultivation practices. Spirulina harvested from contaminated water sources can carry harmful toxins, so home production should use clean water and verified starting cultures. Spirulina is safe for most adults when consumed as food. However, people with phenylketonuria, a rare metabolic disorder, should avoid it because spirulina is high in phenylalanine. People who are immunocompromised should also speak with their doctor before adding spirulina to their diet. As a general rule, introduce any new high-protein food source gradually. There you have it, 12 plants that contain real, meaningful amounts of protein, all of which you can grow at home in some form, from a garden bed to a container to an indoor tank. Before we close, let me leave you with a few practical notes on how to think about these protein numbers. The comparisons you see on this list use dried or concentrated weights for the seeds and legumes, which is the fairest comparison to the protein content of meat, which is also measured at its ready-to-eat weight. Fresh edamame and fresh fava beans will have lower protein per 100 grams than their dried equivalents because they contain more water. That is not a trick. That is just how nutrition math works. Growing your own protein crops is not about replacing every meal or radically changing what you eat overnight. It is about understanding that your garden can produce food that is nutritionally dense in ways most people never consider. A pot of edamame on your patio, a bed of lentils in the corner of your vegetable garden, a moringa tree by the fence in a warm climate, a row of fava beans put in the ground before the last frost has even passed. These are real, practical, productive additions to any home garden. The American Heart Association has now officially recommended shifting from meat to plant protein sources in its 2026 dietary guidance. For gardeners, that is not a dietary overhaul. That is an invitation to grow something new. The question I want you to answer in the comments is this: which of these 12 plants are you most surprised to see on a protein list? Is it the hemp, which most people did not know they could grow legally in all 50 states? The moringa that matches chicken gram for gram from its dried leaves? Or something else? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every one. If this video helped you, please hit the thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people find this content, and it helps this channel keep doing what it does. Subscribe to Evergreen Garden if you are not already. We cover practical gardening topics every week, from edible plants to perennials to food crops and everything in between. Thank you for being here today. This is Timothy from Evergreen Garden, and I will see you in the next video.